boys and girls, live from the K. White Hall, it's Late on Vashon.
Dara?
Hey, Joe! Joe, I just voted! It felt great!
Well,
Did you vote?
Well, yes, a
You
while ago, but Dara...
Yeah, I left it till
you're
last
late.
minute, but I did it, Joe, and it feels awesome!
Dara, you're late for the show.
No, the show's not for another hour. Don't worry, though, I got my suit on. I'm all ready. Can't wait.
Dara, daylight savings time was yesterday.
It was?
It's about to start right now.
I haven't been using my cell phone. I've been using this watch.
Ugh.
That means it's
Dara,
it's
we
about
gotta
9
go.
o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, don't
What?
panic, Joe. You come on later as a musical guest.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, don't panic. No time to lose.
But
Okay.
what?
I'll be there, Joe. I'll see you there.
Do you want me to drive you? Oh my goodness.
I'm coming! I'm so sorry. I'm here. Sorry, everyone. Excuse me, Amalia. I'm so sorry. I got my mask on, though. Oh, my God. Oh, here we go. I'm here. I'm right here. So sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry. Hi, everyone. Oh. Hi, everyone. Welcome to It's Late on Vashon. I'm your host, Dara Kennan. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm always on time. The daylight savings. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Welcome. We have a great show for you tonight. You know, tomorrow, as we all know, is a pretty big day, and people are feeling what they're feeling. There's a lot of anxiety, and I don't know about you, but I would really love a traffic report from Glenn Easley. We've got that tonight. I would love a warming cocktail from the great Jake Heil at the Ruby Brink. We've got that. And maybe, just maybe, some music from Joe Panzetta. We even have that tonight. But first, it's my pleasure to welcome storyteller, psychologist, anthropologist, musician, longtime resident, the great, the one and only Michael Mead. Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good to be with you, Dara.
In the virtual living room. I'm so sorry I'm late once again. My apologies.
Understandable.
I had something to do. It was pretty important. So I thought we could begin our conversation because I'm not really sure what to say right now, and that's why you're here, because you deal and you traffic in this. You help people through story, through song. So what do you think would be appropriate right now? A song, a story? What do you want to kick us off with?
Old tradition in many parts of the world, begin with a song.
Let's do a song.
Let's do a song. All right. So this is a song from West Africa, from the Dagara tribe. It's a song they sing when everybody realizes they're in trouble. Azisona eze makuli Azisona te samini barina Azisona eze makuli Azisona te mamini badina Azisona. The world has gone wrong. Eze makuli. Somebody take us home. Azisona. The realm has gone wrong. Te mamini badina. We're losing our mothers. Azisona Eze Makuli Azisona Tisamni Badina Azisona Eze Makuli Azisona Timamni Badina Azisona Timamni Badina Azisona Timamni Badina.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
The world has gone wrong.
The world has gone wrong. Tell us a little bit, unpack that a little bit for us. Why did you choose that song, and how are you feeling about the world right now?
So that's a song that someone in the tribe would sing when everyone knew something had gone wrong. And so there's a way you could say this has happened before. Not the same as now, but the world has gone wrong before. To me, that's helpful to know that people survived and even passed on stories and songs about the world going wrong. And I love the line, somebody take us home. Because it's like, how do you find home in the middle of a pandemic? How do you find home in the midst of climate crisis? How do you, everything is piling up, the weight of everything. How do you find home? How do you find refuge? And then the reference at the end, we're losing our mothers, we're losing our fathers. They changed the verse going back and forth. But they don't mean our biological mothers and fathers, although now that might be appropriate. But what they mean is your mother is anyone who has nourished you. Your father is anyone who has taught you. And they mean we're losing those who nourish life. We're losing those who help us find the way. And so it's a call for the awakening of the kind of wisdom in people and the care in people.
Yeah. So what are you feeling about, like, the new world after tomorrow? Are you optimistic? What are your thoughts on that?
Could I describe it in a story?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, that's part of my world is myths and stories. And one of the problems you could say we're in right now is we're not in a story together. People don't know what the story is. And the dominant story is people thinking they're not in each other's story. And that's really dangerous. And so another thing that would happen in traditional culture when everybody realized they were in trouble was they would have a story. So this is a story that's told in a number of native tribes throughout North America. And it's fairly short, but it's trying to indicate some big things. So the story starts out with the idea that everyone's looking for knowledge. No matter who they are, they're looking for knowledge. That's a human longing. And it turns out that the knowledge that we're looking for is in a cave nearby. It's just that no one ever goes to that cave. People go back and forth on highways and byways all day and night, and no one goes to the cave. But if you went to the cave, what you see inside the cave is an old woman. And she's weaving the most beautiful garment that anyone has ever seen. And she's been doing it for a long time. And she's working on the hem, and she wants to make it as beautiful as possible. And so she's weaving that out of porcupine quills. But in order to weave on them, she has to bite down and flatten them. And she's been biting down on quills for so long, she's worn her teeth down to the gums, but still she keeps working. And every once in a while, she has to stop and go to the back of the cave. And in the back of the cave is the most ancient thing that anybody knows, which is a fire that's burning. and there's a cauldron hanging over the fire, and in the cauldron there's the seeds of all the trees and all the plants and all the grains and all the flowers, and if she doesn't go back and stir the cauldron, then the seeds will burn, and we won't have forests, we won't have trees, we won't have plants, we won't have flowers. So she has to go do that. So she puts down the beautiful weaving, and she goes to the back, and because she's old, she moves slowly, and she moves slowly back to stir the cauldron. And while she's doing that, the black dog, what black dog? The black dog comes over to the weaving, and it sees a loose thread, and it takes the thread and begins to pull the thread until the dog has completely unraveled the beautiful garment. And when the old woman comes back, she sees all of the beauty and all of the work she did turned into chaos laying on the floor, and she's stuck still for a moment. And then she sits down. The story doesn't say what she's thinking or what she's feeling. But in the solemnity of that moment, she sees a loose thread herself. And she picks up the loose thread. And as soon as she does that, she sees a vision of an even more beautiful garment. And she begins to weave again, this time the most beautiful garment she's ever seen. So that's the story. And then some people say, damn the black dog. If it wasn't for the black dog, she would have finished a beautiful garment. But the elders in the tribe say, the old woman is the old woman who weaves the world. And when you finish something, it's over and it dies. So be thankful for what unravels things, because it prepares us for the next weaving of the world. So that would be the story that the elders would tell when everybody was feeling like it was all coming down and falling apart and we're all getting lost.
Yeah.
And so to me, there's lots of things you could say, but I think we are each the old woman now.
Yeah.
And we're witnessing the unraveling.
Yeah.
Nature's unraveling. Culture's collapsing in many ways. Education, economics, you don't know where things are anymore. And so we're the witnesses of that collapse, like we're the witness of the unraveling. But we're also there to pick up a thread. And I think that's our job now, is to find our thread and be ready to help weave the next vision of the world. In mythology, the world can't come to an end. Well, it comes to an end, but it begins again.
Right.
The word end doesn't mean final good night, over and out. It actually means loose end or remnant. And from the remnant of what we thought the world was, the world gets reimagined and remade again. So that's the story.
Gotcha.
That's what I carry as a way of encouragement.
Yeah. Now, no offense to Brutus. I don't think Brutus would ever do something like that. It's
Probably
just a coincidence that you said black dog.
Well, it's a coincidence there's a black dog in the story. And so, so that's interesting, because when you're at the end of an era, which is another way of understanding what we're going through, fact and myth come together. And so I think that's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And, tomorrow is significant in the sense that people are actually voting for the next version of the world, whether people see it or not. Because we're at the end of one thing, the beginning of another, that's impacting a lot of things that we do. And the good thing about mythology, in the sense, is they say the world could only end if there's no story to tell. So I try to do my part.
Yeah, as a storyteller.
Yeah.
And the storyteller has such an important role, don't you think, in times like this? I mean, you just helped us by telling us that story. But, I mean, what do you see as the role of the storyteller going forward? I mean, what's the job of the storyteller?
Well, the job of the storyteller is to know the story and keep it alive. So when I tell a story, I know the story, but I never tell it exactly the same.
Yeah.
Something, because by the time I tell it the next time, things have changed.
Yeah.
And so to me, stories are like living things.
Yeah.
And the way that you work with the story, you don't have to understand a whole story. You just have to let a part of you impact you. And I call it mythological acupuncture. A story will strike a person exactly where they need some attention. And so if we were not social distancing, we could all get together and get into that story, and people could pick a place. And all of a sudden you realize we're all in the same story. And people could kind of express the story to each other from the place where they are. Like someone's in the utter sense of loss that they're feeling and grief at the loss of the beautiful garment of the world. Whereas someone else is inspired by the vision. And if you got into a story that way, you could see that we're all in the same story and we all can be a part of that, a living part of it. There's an Irish, it's interesting too when you get into myths. I call that a folk myth.
Yeah.
There are stories in other cultures that are similar, and the Irish have a very similar story. Yeah. And they say when the world falls apart, as it has done many times, people are supposed to go to the darkest place, the area that looks the darkest to them. And there they will find a thread. This is the Irish version. And all you have to do is bring your thread, pull your thread back to the center. And if everybody pulled their threads back, everybody could help reweave the world. And what that is saying is no one has to be heroic. No one has to solve it all. No one has to understand it all. Everybody just has to pull the thread of their life into a direction that's meaningful. And that's how you remake the world. So in other words, there isn't a single idea that's needed, or a single leader that's needed, or a single belief system. It's a matter of people using the threads of their lives to contribute something to the world, and that's how it gets revisioned and remade.
It sounds also like a coming together, you know, the importance of practicing empathy together. You know, I think that, I don't know about you, but it can feel isolating for people, not just an election, but an election during the time of this pandemic and the uncertainty of that. But it seems like what you're saying through your storytelling and through your work, and I want to know a little bit more about that, is the importance of, it's not a hero, not a hero's journey, it's a collective, right? That we all need to come back to that place together. At least that's what I'm hearing, anyway, from what you're saying.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to it. There's the collective tapestry of the diversity of humanity, just like the diversity of nature, that makes life a wonder and a surprise and an intricate song, and dance for that matter. And then there's the individual thread that is the uniqueness of each person's life. So that's the first premise, that everyone is unique. No, many people would be born, but no one will ever be born the same as your life or my life or anybody who's watching. Yeah. The uniqueness of one's soul, and that's connected to what they used to call the genius. And genius doesn't mean high IQ. The word actually, it's a Latin word that means the spirit that's already there. Yeah. So everybody comes in with a genius, a spirit in them, and that means they have a gift to give and an expression to give to the world. And so then you have two things coming together, the individual thread, the expression of the unique life, all coming together and weaving the tapestry of humanity in one case, but also there's a tapestry of nature.
And that's kind of a large part of what you're doing right now, right? Is this finding this inner genius and helping people. Tell me a little bit about who you work with and how you go about unlocking that for people.
Well, so for decades and decades, I've worked with people all around the country, but primarily in oppressed situations, and particularly I started working with young people in trouble. Because there's an old idea that says that's how you remake culture. You remake culture by working with young people because they're going to be the culture makers going forward. Yep. And I had a lot of sympathy for young people in trouble. And it was in doing that work that I realized that young people didn't know that they were unique and they were valuable. In this kind of culture, they tell you you have to make something of yourself. Well, I tell young people, you already are something. It's more about awakening to yourself than making something of yourself. And particularly now, as things kind of fall apart and you can't tell what's going to happen next. And so young people growing up now are going to have many career changes. They say 5 or 6 on the average. Yeah. So then it doesn't become about studying a certain thing and having a singular career. It then becomes about learning who you are and learning how to learn from who you are and being flexible in the world. So I started doing that years ago with young people that were in trouble. Just saying, you know, do you realize that you have something special in you? You have gifts to give. Do you realize that? It's called your genius. I was just trying it out, but it really worked, even with, you know, street kids and all. You know, just the idea, hearing that there's something in there. And then the idea is a person expresses their genius and gives their gifts to the community. So it's a benefit to the community. So the community needs the genius of people. We're in a theater where you would hear all the voices of genius, the singers and the actors, and all of that would come out and it would come to the community. And so it's made of those two things. The acknowledgement and support of the genius and the creative expression of each person, and then the weaving together of a community. You said empathy, I think. Yeah. A community of empathy, you know, because once people realize their own suffering, they should be able to awaken to other people's suffering.
It should be.
And especially nowadays. Yeah. And so in one sense, we're all driven apart and we're isolated, but that's preparation for coming back together. And in a way right now, no one knows what's going to happen, but that's the opportunity to imagine, like the old woman weaving, a world that's more beautiful, more inclusive, more expressive, more creative, more profound, more healing, more inviting.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So what should people do tomorrow, Michael? What's your advice?
My advice? Well, the problem, I mean, I don't really know. I would say...
What are you going to do?
Well, I've got work to do. I write in the morning, and I've got other things to do. And I'll start checking in, but I'll find ways to step out, too, because it's probably going to be a fairly long night. And I think the difficulty now is what do people do with the pressure? What do people do with the anxiety? And I think what's going on there, it's not just personal anxiety. We're all suffering from collective anxiety now. It comes down on us. And so there needs to be, I like music, so, you know, I might play some drums or stop and sing along with some music for a while. There needs to be antidotes. But what's happening tomorrow, I think you said it, the world will be different one way or another. That's true every day, but it's more true tomorrow.
Well, I really appreciate you being here, man, and sharing your stories and the work you do. You lived on the island how long?
I think maybe like 48 years.
Maybe 48 years.
Something like that.
And you're doing great work, and you're helping people, and it's a privilege to have you on the show, and I thank you.
Great being with you, and great being part of Late on Vashon.
It is late on Vashon.
I know.
And now, speaking of It's Late on Vashon, I'm going to call up our friend Glenn Easley, who is our traffic correspondent, and he should be standing by at the four-way. I don't hear the music, but
I'm gonna get, oh, there it is. I wonder what the four-way looks like. Oh, here we go.
Is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after the beep.
He's unavailable. You know what we're gonna do? You know what we're gonna do? We are going to just say that Glenn is probably dealing with a lot right now at the old four-way. But
we're just going to wish him good night, and we're going to thank him for his service, and we're just going to assume that everything is okay at the four-way. And we're actually going to throw it to Jacob Heil from the Ruby Brink, who is going to mix a fantastic cocktail for us all. Jake.
Hi folks. I'm Jake from the Ruby Brink. We'll be doing a seasonal cocktail for you, keeping in mind the season and putting together ingredients that are easy for all of us to get on the island. We're doing a Ruby Brink riff off of a cocktail called the Stone Fence. We're calling this the Hedgerow. It's a little bit different. We've essentially mulled fresh squeezed apple juice with bay leaf. Significant amount. If you take about a quart of apple juice, simmer it down slowly to about half the concentrated amount with about 10 to 15 bay leaves. You're going to have a really delicious, richer version of your apple cider that will mix well against rye whiskey. We've also put a little lemon peel just to add a little liveliness to it. Again, very easy recipe here. It's 2 ounces of a high-proof rye and 2 ounces of our apple cider concentrate. And 1 dash of Angostura bitters. That's the classic bitters with the yellow cap. You can get it anywhere. After a hard shake, pour over ice. Should have a really nice foam on top. Garnish with a bay leaf, fresh or dry, and enjoy the Hedgerow.
Thank you, Jake. As usual, that looks fantastic. I'd like to say that I've got that cocktail in this bottle, but I don't. Just some good old-fashioned water. The Hedgerow. I love the title of that cocktail. I'd also, I was really curious about the Dad's Hat, that sort of green liqueur that was hovering in the foreground, not to be used by Jake, but sort of just tempting us to figure out what that is. Check out the Ruby Brink. They're doing great stuff, and they're keeping us through this time. So thanks so much, Jake. Now it is time for our trivia question. And this month's trivia question is, it's a multiple choice again, so don't worry. Which name below, and you're going to see this on the screen, which name below is not the name of a Washington State ferry? Which name below is not the name of a Washington State ferry? A, Clahoya, B, Hayu, C, Tacoma, D, Squim, or E, none of the above. And if you want to write to us the answer, please do so at info@VashonCenterForTheArts.org. And again, that'll be on your screen as well. And this month's prize is a gift certificate to the Glass Bottle Creamery. Here's your question one more time, and good luck.
It's the trivia, get up and move time. It's the trivia, get on your groove time. It's the trivia, wake up your brain time. It's the trivia, get on the train time.
All right, I hope you guys answered that question. You sent your answer to info@VashonCenterForTheArts.org, and the first response that is correct will receive that gift certificate. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our musical guest for the evening. And this is a gentleman who normally sits on the other side and does so much work behind the scenes here at VCA. He's the director of marketing. He helps with the camera work and the crew here on It's Late on Vashon. He's also a pretty incredible musician. I remember the first time that I went to see Joe Panzetta perform. I walked in and I thought I was just dropping in because he was a colleague at work and I was going to be polite and watch a couple of songs, and he just blew me away with his band St. Ophelia, and it's just a real treat to throw it over to my friend Joe Panzetta.
Thanks so much, Dara. I'm happy to be here on It's Late on Vashon. Thanks for having me. Going to start off with a song called As Good as Allowed. Hello, crooked line, so hard to trace. May I learn to turn gracefully. I've been drawing lines inside my heart. May I learn to turn. Shining next thing, I don't know just how you've won any favor in the theater of now. Those words are untrue, coming out of that face. And if there's a heart, I see no trace. I've been thumb-typing in the echo chamber. It's such a disheartening place. There's a war on truth. There's a war on. Crooked line through this crooked year. So much has happened, so many tears. It's hard to say from back then to right now how to remember the why and the how. For me, I'm doing alright on a wish and a prayer. We've had good fortune, love and care. And here one more thing, now listen right now. I wish you a future as good as allowed. Down, 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 down. Thank you, Dara. Thanks. So I'm going to play one more song, and I'm going to invite my friend Michael Mead to come back up on stage. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Joe.
So this is a song that I wrote in 2015 when I first met Michael Mead, and we hung out the first time, and as I remember it, it was around a bottle of wine, and it was an epic conversation, and we've continued to have such conversations throughout the years. This song, it's called "Looking for Free," and it was inspired by Michael's book "Fate and Destiny." I used to sing this song originally with my friends Kim Thal and Steve Meyer, and now I'm singing it in St. Ophelia. And there's a line at the end of the song, Michael, I wanted to give you a chance to speak to. It's and this is not from your book, but it's from one of the conversations we had, and you were telling me about this Zen monk poet. And so fill us in.
Ikkyu was his name, and he was called the renegade monk because he did all his meditation in the tavern. And he has this great line, which has become like a mantra for me. It's helpful whenever you think your life is in trouble and whose life isn't in trouble now. And he just simply says, you can't help but be who you are and where. And it's just a way of realizing. I think there's a hint of forgiveness in it. If we can just realize we can't each help but be who we are and where we are, we can forgive ourselves for whatever got us here and then just work from there. Ikkyu. His first book was called Crow with No Mouth. He's just always turning things like that.
I love it. That's great. Well, yeah, so my band St. Ophelia, we're recording both of these songs that I'm playing this evening, and we're having great fun with that. We were going to debut them live at the campfire, the Vashon Live campfire, but we were ironically smoked out due to the wildfires. So we have yet to play these songs live, which has been so disappointing because we've been having a lot of fun with these songs. But we're working on our second album, and these are two of many tunes. And this is called Looking for Free. On top of the world, a star in my crown. I was knocked from my feet as fate unfurled my face to the ground. Life is a wheel, that's just the deal. It turns you around. Whatever you feel, you better let it all heal, or you lose what was found. Freedom's a word, what does it mean? Can anyone say? I think it's like love, only truly seen when you know its ways. Is there a false understanding that comes into play? You're strong up until the landing, then you're made out of clay. Looking for free, yeah, 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 nah, 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 nah. Looking for free,
Listen, life isn't simply the march of history. It's also the revelation of an inner mystery. For what we're searching for is found within, a kind of inner medicine that can heal and set us free. The law can never make you free, nor can weapons forged in fear. And those who deny the freedom of others cannot themselves be free. And if you suppress the vote, you've damaged your own liberty. That's a truth we can hold self-evident regardless of who's elected president. Some say the truth will set you free, but what kind of truth might that be? Art is a lie that tells the truth, but what kind of truth is what we're trying to sing and say through poetry? Art is the kind of truth that lets you be you and lets me be me. The kind of truth that makes every vote count because every life counts and everyone on this earth deserves a chance to be free. And if some are denied their freedom, then we all suffer at the level of humanity. So sometimes a vote is just a choice, and sometimes it becomes a necessity that we vote on the side of life and against autocracy. I know we're living in a time of pain and tragedy, and it's all the more reason that our land be the land that it never has been yet, be the land where everyone is free. So I'm saying, I'll vote for you if you vote for me, and maybe one day we can all sing together because we can all be free, be free, be free.
I walked to the water, the morning was new, the starlings were diving out of the blue, exquisitely woven all through the sky. Their changing pattern came to my eye. I could not help but be who I was and where. A being of light, made of water, breathing the air, looking for free, na 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 na, looking for free. Freedom's a word, what does it mean? Can anyone say?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Dara.
And thanks to all of you. We're here on Vashon. That's where we are. We're waiting it out. And I just want to thank all of you for joining us. I want to thank our sponsors for our live stream programming. That's Windermere Real Estate, Marianne Tagney and David Jones, and Chris and Nancy O'Brien with Flintworks. If you would like to make a donation to VCA, to It's Late on Vashon, please do so. Your contribution goes toward our programming, our artists, our wonderful tech crew. Tonight we have Ben and Michael and Max and David, our producer Ron Lee. We couldn't do it without your support, so thank you so much. Speaking of heroes, now is the time that we get to announce who your hero is for the month. And we had one submission this month that I'd like to call out, and that is Kate Gwinney, costumes mistress for the dance program at VCA. She's been helping the Blue Heron ladies out over the summer with cleaning out storage and taking inventory and organizing all the props and the costumes, all because she loves being part of the program. And if you've been over there, you know what a huge task that is. So thank you, Kate. Well, that's it for us here on It's Late on Vashon. We say good night from Vashon Island, where we go to bed early, we speak our own truths, and we garden organically. See you on the flip side. Thanks for joining us.